Now let's talk about the Zorro duoolgy films from the 1990s. This will be the last video to end in the series, to end the week. Kind of famous talking about old pulps, 90s pulp superheroes. I mean, last night I talked about kind of more contemporary ones, Spirit, the Green Hornet, Green Hornet, and Lone Ranger. But let's finish off with the Zorro movies now. Zorro duoolgy, of course, consists of The Mask of Zorro, which of course came out in 1988, which was of course released. Which of course it was of course directed by Brent Campbell, of course starring Antonio Banderas, Anthony Hopkins, Catherine Zeta-Jones, and one of her big breakout movie role, honestly. It also starred Stuart Wilson, and that's kind of really it. Now, it's known for, basically the plot of it is basically the original Zorro Don De La Vega. He comes in retirement. Well, he's actually put in exile. He's basically imprisoned after being framed for the death of his wife, which was the work of his own villain, Monsieur, whatever the heck his name was. And then after his prison, he recruits a man named Alejandro something, who seeks vengeance for the death of his brother, and he becomes a new Zorro. Yeah, basically, it's basically like his legacy sequel to. If you think about it, it's essentially a legacy sequel to a movie that never happened. And then, and of course, in The Mask of Zorro, when it came out, it was a huge critical and commercial success, where it grossed 200 something $million. Against a pretty hefty budget of around I believe $73 million budget. Its success actually led to a sequel, The Legend of Zorro, which came out 7 years later. Now, The Legend of Zorro came out in 2005. Now, many people felt that it was kind of a little too late to capitalize on The Mask of Zorro's success. Now, it's kind of unknown why it took so long, but it's believed there was like issues with script delays. And then, while The Mask of Zorro was distributed by Terrestrial Pictures, The Legend of Zorro was actually distributed by Columbia Pictures. So, here's that, I'm going to point out. Now, Legend of Zorro, Maureen Campbell returned to the director's chair, and of course, Antonio Banderas and Catherine Zeta-Jones returned as Alejandro De La Vega Zorro and Elena De La Vega. But then, it was also had Nick Chinland, Michael Rufus Sewell, who, as well as also Nick Chinland, Michael Emerson, who of course appeared in minor supporting roles. Now, The Legend of Zorro came out in 2005, and unfortunately was nowhere near as big of a hit as The Mask of Zorro. In fact, it actually underperformed at the box office relative to the first film's huge success. Its box office underperformance actually led to Sony abandoning the Zorro franchise. Now, prior to Legend of Zorro's release, Sony had plans to develop a third film that possibly would have been titled The Mark of Zorro. To the original cinematic adaptation of Zorro. However, afterwards, plans for a third Zorro film were eventually shelved. Sony then went through a few attempts to reboot the property, such as one attempt at a dark and gritty origin story reboot inspired by Batman Begins. We were taking in this property in a very dark and gritty direction, and it was seriously an attempt by Robert Rodriguez, who pitched his idea of a post-apocalyptic setting, but that never happened. So